Hello everyone. Actually my PowerPoint isn't showing up yet. Oh, God. Sorry, I lack patience. But today the first topic we're going to cover is about answering questions. So the focus is going to be about adding details to improve your answers. So, next slide. Here are 3 speaking tips that I've taken from Steven Pinker, who's a really good linguist. He actually wrote a book that's about his 14 tips to improve writing. But a lot of these work with speaking as well, okay? So my tip number 1 is always put the most important information. So basically a person doing an action to something at the beginning of your sentence, and put the least important or complex, your reasons or details, at the end of the sentence. This is a bit different from Chinese, where you tend to give like time, reasons for why you're giving that answer. English, it's the opposite. English, it should always be, what do you want the person to know at the beginning, the context, and then all your reasons or details at the end. The second one is old information comes before new information. So this actually has 2 uses. First is everything should be a timeline, okay? Starting with the oldest information to the newest information, okay? This helps people keep track of the story. Like every story has a beginning, middle, end. If you start with the end, go to the middle, go to the beginning, people will be confused. But the second use of this is whenever you need to recall information from the past. Like if I wanted to discuss like my teaching experience at LTTC, I could be like, well, when I worked at LTTC, I also had another job at the same time. That would work because that is old information that was previously mentioned, and I can recall it using a time clause to add more information to that idea. And the third one, I just try to summarize as many problems as I see when translating from Chinese to English as possible, which is use more visual language. So a person, or who does what, where, and when. And as number 2, you can move when to the beginning sometime. Or examples rather than feeling. I've noticed this from studying Korean and Chinese, that it's much more focusing on feeling and explain how you feel according to certain things. But in English, it's all about the context. So you want to give a picture of something that people don't know, okay? You want to make a clear picture, words that they can agree on, like this water bottle is a third full, rather than this water is refreshing. Is easier for people to understand. They can get the visual of it. I mean, you can also think of it as my idea of happy and your idea of happy is completely different. But if I say I had a good time going hiking in the afternoon on Sunday, you could understand that. All right. Well, now I'm going to give you a tip that is actually from stand-up comedy, or is from comedy. It's this idea called yes and. So in comedy, yes and is if someone makes or improv, but if someone makes a joke and you want the joke to continue, you agree with what they said and then say and to add more information or kind of change the topic a little bit. So the basic thing is can also be applied to interviews as well. So the next example I'm going to give you for this one is about answering interview questions. Okay? So the 3 ideas behind this is you want to avoid one-word answers by adding details. Okay? You don't want to keep your answers short. You want to have full sentences and make sure you add a lot of details to make your picture clearer. Then provide more visual details than feelings, as I said earlier. And then try to guide the conversation into the next topic. So the good thing about this skill is that you can guide the conversation into something you feel more comfortable with by using your details. Okay, and the goal of this is to follow with a question. Okay, you want to focus on one of the details you provided, and you want to pick a topic that the other person would want to talk about. I know this is confusing so far, so I'm going to get to the example and make it clear. Okay, so here's my example of how I would answer an interview question. So the interview question I chose is, what techniques and tools do you use to keep yourself organized? So I'd say, yes, I use a lot of tools to keep myself organized. The first thing I use is Google Drive. I use it to keep track of documents that I might need for teaching or certain writing projects that I'm working on, and PowerPoints that I would need for teaching as well, or kind of giving a business presentation. I also take notes on my iPhone. For example, I make to-do lists of what errands that I need to run, or of music projects that I'm going to work on. I also take notes on work ideas, like if I'm working on a music playlist for my bar, or coming up with a new, or keeping track of what meetings or what people I need to talk to. And finally, I use email to keep myself organized. For example, I will send an email to myself of useful websites that I would use later, and important events, like if I have like a meeting with someone or trying to plan out like a class in the future, like I did with Henry. Okay, so that's my example, but now I'll show you how to use this example. So everything I intended there was trying to be visual and guiding people to the next topic of conversation. So I'm going to teach you two specific types of questions that we're going to use now, and we're going to apply them later in a small talk exercise. So first type of question that I have is, what are some? I would say this is like a plural question as well. You can say like, what documents? I say what are some just to keep people using a plural question. So what are some? The goal is to ask for more information. So these are the 6 ones that we can ask for more information about, because we didn't give that much information about them. So you can go use the documents, PowerPoints, to-do lists, work ideas, useful websites, important events, because we didn't give that many examples of them. And the other one is what other. What other is for more examples if you already provided examples. Like if we go back 2 slides, the Google Drive was like the main idea of the first part of the answer. So if we go to what other here, we already gave 2 examples of what I use Google Drive for. So I can ask people, well, what other things do you use Google Drive for? Or, yeah. So here I'll give you some example questions. So from the previous one, what are some? I would say, what are some documents that I will need to prepare for this job? Or what are some important events that I will need to keep track of? For what other topics will I receive emails about? Or what other things do you share on Google Drive? So it's fairly simple questions, but the main thing with the questions is to make sure that you make the questions plural, because if you keep an open question, people are more likely to give you more information. I would also say, big tip, I didn't include it in the slides, but avoid asking yes and no questions. Because the thing about yes and no questions, people could answer by just saying yes or no, which is different from Chinese, where if I ask an open question, I'm just giving you the opportunity to talk. But sometimes people will ask a lot of yes, no questions and just answer yeah, no, just ignore them. Okay, and just one last time, I'm going to go back to the 3 tips I added at the beginning, because these will come in handy later. So number 1, always put the most important information at the beginning of the sentence. So always a person doing action to something, and your reasons or details, time, place at the end. So an ideal sentence in English is who does what, where, and when. Okay, old information comes before new information, and use more visual language, the who does what, where, and when, or examples rather than feeling. And also one other tip I would add to this, never use me in a sentence. I is okay, because I introduces a topic, but in English, me sounds more selfish. Like, these things happen to me, I have no control. But if you have I at the beginning of the sentence, it's good. All right, so we finished the first one. So now we're going to have an exercise for the second one. Hold on, let me get my slides up. Okay, and now we're going to the best one, small talk. The hardest, yet kind of important. It doesn't seem that important, but it is pretty important because you kind of have to get to know your colleagues. You can't really assume much about your colleagues besides that they work with you. So I'm going to give you a lot of tips. I will also include maybe Henry can email you a couple of websites that I suggest. This is from one of the websites that I put on my list of important websites. And it's about pretty much how to talk to pretty much anyone about pretty much anything. So if you have time, you can read that article. So don't talk about the weather. It's not really good small talk. Just going to say it. Because it doesn't ask about the person that you're with. It's just talking about the environment. It's like, oh yeah, it's hot. Yeah, we're both hot. But you don't ask direct about that person, trying to get to know more about them. So it kind of stops the conversation quickly. And the second thing is the weather can kind of control the tone of the conversation. Like if the weather's nice outside and something bad happened to you, people think they want to talk about something nice. And it could be the same if the weather's bad, it's bad outside and something good happened to you, they expect a conversation to be bad. So you don't want anything that controls the tone of the conversation besides you. So I'm going to give you my 3 rules for choosing a topic. Okay. So my next one, I have 3 rules for choosing a topic. The first one is pick a topic where people have a choice. There's a lot of topics to choose from, a lot of topics that people have a choice, but people don't have a choice with family, work, or relationships. And the reason why you shouldn't choose those 3, those are more personal, and it could lead to more of a negative conversation. So okay, movies would be great. Talk to people about movies, TV shows, books, all great. But talking to someone about their relationship with their mom might not be the best idea. The second, avoid topics that could cause an argument. So I say no. Oh crap! Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. So I say no religion, politics, or news. These are fine if someone brings it up and you agree with it, but I don't know. I've had so many, especially news. I would say stay away from these because you're trying to get to know your colleagues and not start arguing with them about things that they might feel very personal. So it's better just to avoid those entirely. And the third one is choose a topic that you are also interested in. I've had so many times where I've told people how much I like music, I like making music, I listen to music all the time, and it's one of the reasons why I chose the career I did. But then I would ask them what kind of music that they like, and they would say, oh, I don't really listen to music. But the goal in conversation is to find, in these small talk conversations, is to find something in common with your colleague. Like the more you find something in common, the better your work relationship will be. Because you can have a lot of conflicts at work, but you can also be like, okay, we both like Japanese food, or we both like to go hiking. So you can kind of make the conversation a little bit calmer by doing good small talk. Okay, so I would say the other thing is that then after you choose a small talk topic, you want to focus on kind of the questions that we used earlier. So a question is basically used to find out how two topics are connected. So the two types of questions, I had the three types of questions that I had earlier, the what other for more examples. What are some, you can use reasons or ways for reasons instead of why. So this one you can even use when asking follow-up questions. Instead of saying, why did you choose that? You can be like, what are some reasons that brought you to that answer? And ways can just ask for more information about something. And how, I kind of think of how as like getting to know someone's logic, their recipe, thinking how they could do things step by step, okay? So the next one, I'll give you some examples of these questions, which we'll practice a little bit later. Like for books is a good thing to talk to people about. So if you're doing a small talk conversation about people with books, you can say, what are some books that you have read? Or what other books do you want to read? Or how do you choose which book to read? These are all really good questions, and good follow-up, good ways of practicing follow-up questions as well. So the next thing, I don't know how I'm going to be able to hear you, but I'm going to do a brainstorming exercise with you about small talk topics. Okay, let me open up the document. See if I can put this over here. Okay. Is there any way I can get this to be full screen? Or I can expand it a little bit. Okay. Okay, I guess if everyone's able to see this, okay, can everyone? Okay. Okay. So I don't know how can I interact with the students? Oh, what can I do like this? Oh, okay. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Okay. Okay, so now we're just going to brainstorm some conversation topics. How would I be able to hear students? Like could they say like conversation topics to you and you tell them to me?
They can unmute their microphone and we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, if anyone has any ideas, okay, I'll put the one I used for the questions earlier. Oop, not in Chinese though. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so first one would be like books would be a good one. Does anyone there have any other ideas? Good conversation topics. Oh no. It's okay. It's okay. I have ideas. Okay.
So Yu said Netflix, and May said
Okay.
films.
Okay. Movies. I would say movies, and I would say instead of
James said sports.
sports is a good one. Okay, we go TV. I would say TV shows instead of Netflix, because if you're going to the U.S., you're gonna have a lot of streaming platforms. Okay. Sports is a great one. Anyone else? Okay, sports. Anyone else? Music? Perfect. K-pop? I would put K-pop under music because you want to make sure with the small talk topic it's not too specific. Because if it's too specific, people might not listen to K-pop or they might not have Netflix. But think more like a step above that. Travel? Okay. Hobbies, great one. I like hobbies. I'll do travel too, but I'll do travel more like weekend plans because that covers a lot more. Travel can be like, some people feel they don't have enough vacation days and it might become a problem. 3 more. Who's got any? I can give you 2 that everyone does, but no one talks about. Clothing. Food is a great one. Yeah, food's a great one. You can do food as like 3 different ones. can say like restaurants, snacks, cooking. Like those three ones can even go together. So everyone wears clothing, so I think clothing is a good small talk topic. And one more that I think everyone does, come on, we all do this, shopping. I mean, everyone goes shopping, but yeah, no one talks about it. Okay, so for the next part, I'm going to pick one of these since we did books earlier, and if you could help me out a little bit, you can try writing down what are the questions. We'll get through two of these and try making the what are some, what other, and how questions. So we're going to do the first one about movies. Okay. Can anyone try to write a question using what are some for more examples about movies? Like, for example, our earlier what are some one was what are some books that they've read. I'll give you a second. Good job, James. I'm sorry, so quick to react, but what are some movies that you like? Okay, I can see that. Sorry, my camera's in my way. Okay. So what other, I'm going to give you a little hint about what other is. What other can either be in the future or in the past. So this one, maybe we can think of more examples for the future. Can anyone try with the what other? Oh, okay. James, that's a good one, but I would say almost what other movies do you want to see? That's just a quick grammar form. What are some that works as well? But good job. And let's try it for a how question. Can anyone try a how question? Like their logic. How do they something about movies? I mean, also for how, you don't want to say, how many movies have you seen? It's kind of a little bit of a waste, but. Okay, I'll give you one. How do you find out about new movies? So this one's kind of like, just in general, how do they find information about the movies? It doesn't have to be, yeah. It's just much more for their logic, and it kind of gets them to answer it like an open question. But to be honest, basically if you want to get really good at asking open questions, what are some is the best follow-up question. So if someone's like, what are some movies that they like that you like, and someone's like, oh, I like Korean movies, you can be like, oh, what are some Korean movies that you like? Or yeah, so you can practice using these as follow-up questions as well. So basically all you need is the question format and a noun and just connecting those two. That's basically it to becoming much better at asking questions. Okay, maybe we'll try one more. Let's try hobbies. Okay, so let's bring the text. Oh, I can't see. Sorry, I can't really see here. Okay. Okay. Could someone give me an example of hobbies? What are some question with hobbies? Okay. What are some hobbies? I would say hobbies that you have. you have, okay? But good job, what hobbies do you do is also good. I mean, as long as you're willing to ask the open question. If you make a mistake on the verb, it's fine. As long as you get people to start talking with questions. How about what other hobbies? So what other hobbies do you have? It's close. This one's close because I would go back to the movies one earlier. You do what other hobbies do you want to have? But this one is I'll give you. I don't want to use a collocation because I want to teach you more of the skill. But it's pick up. Like you do. We always say pick up a hobby, pick up a habit. It's the common collocation between those two ideas. And how do you do? Sorry, can't see. Do you blah 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 hobbies? Can someone try a how question with hobbies? Maybe I can do just how do you pick up new hobbies? Oh, I spelt it wrong. Here. Okay. Okay, how do you pick up new hobbies? Okay. So that's basically how you can improve at small talk. It's just picking the topics that you feel really comfortable with. I know we brainstormed 10. I mean, pick which ones you feel most comfortable talking about, which ones you most like. Try to pick up a top 3. Like if I was, to be honest, my top 3 there is always music, sports, and shopping. But like things like that, you can pick up those 3 hobbies and you can basically build a connection with any of your colleagues. So prepare 3, learn how to use these open questions. And especially a lot of these open questions are very, very useful for meetings. Yes, no questions in meetings can cause a lot of problems, but open questions in meetings, I mean, they kind of keep conversation going, so I really wouldn't be that worried about it. Okay, let me go to the third one. I'll save that one. Okay, let me go to the. So now I'm going to go to the next topic, which is emails. Let me see here. Okay. So emails is my next thing. So this is pretty much how to write emails quickly. I know you'll probably have to read countless emails in the future, but you can write emails super quickly if you just kind of break it apart into like each individual step. And actually a lot of emails is just basically an introduction and conclusion. But the first most important thing about an email is the title. I would say the title is basically what gives people all that they need to know. So you have to make sure it tells what the email is about. To be honest, I think the urgent or things like that doesn't really help people. People aren't going to do that email faster. Or if you say who is it from and all that stuff, it's not really useful. It just has to include the plan of action. What do you want from that person? Like, what do they need to know instead of just opening up the email? And this is something that can be written last, okay? Because I think it's actually better to be written last because you take time to consider what does the person need to know. You don't want to have a really long title. You want to have the title just everything that they need to know right there. Okay, so, I mean, emails start with something pretty easy. You should just invite people to read the message. Just say, hello, how are you today? Thanks for the reply. It actually makes the email a little bit more formal than like the standard, like just getting right to the point, but just makes people more willing to enter into the conversation. I guess it's more, I would almost say it's more informal. So I would say it makes it more like informal. I would actually almost say informal, to be honest, because it just makes it easier for people to kind of think of it as something more welcoming rather than something that's very like business. All right, so main part of the email is the answers and statements. Okay, so you can either answer the questions from the last email that you received, if you're like replying to an email, or you can talk about your concerns or other things that you want to discuss. But keep it very specific. You don't need to have, I think the maximum sentences for an email is maybe like 3. I would say like 5 sentences max. Because if not, you could just put it into a document or a report. But basically, you should just talk about your concerns or what things that you should work on. Keep it to just documents that people need. But also in an email, don't give commands. Don't tell people what to do. It's better just to give it as a question than just tell people what you want from them. Or another thing in the body of the paragraph, you can give like three sentences about why you are emailing them and asking them this question. So instead of doing commands, I suggest these 2 types of questions. Like, could you please, for possibilities, like could you come early for reevaluation? And would you please would be more for like your wants. Would you be able to finish this by 5:30, please? Like simple questions like that. Or you can practice using our what other questions that I taught you earlier. I figured most of the time in emails you're just trying to arrange if someone could do something or if they are willing to do something. So, but that's basically the body of the paragraph. You don't need to add too much more than that. And then you just want to end with a goodbye. If you need anything else, let me know. If you have any extra time, you should let me know as soon as possible. Then I look forward to your reply. Let me know as soon as possible. And then you can just say thanks and your name. Because besides that, to be honest, for emails, if you just have a set introduction and a set conclusion, and you put them the same in every email, no one's going to know the difference. But then you could just make sure that your body is really short, and then you spend up more time writing the title than anything else. Because everything else is just, basically just minimize the amount of information you put in an email, because your job isn't to write emails. Your job is to find as much time as you can to work on your job. So, all right, that's emails. So let's go to one more thing, which I find useful. Get through 4 things, and we'll go and have a little break. Let me see here. So I gotta find where my document is. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. All right, and the next thing I have is providing criticism. Okay, so this is the last thing before we take a break, because the last 2 things are, next hour is going to be about critical thinking exercises, and the last one's going to be about presentations, which is what I'm doing right now. But okay, so this is how to give criticism. So it's basically how to motivate people. So don't do that, it's bad criticism. I know you probably heard it so many times from your parents, teachers. Doesn't really help people out. Okay, so when I did a teaching degree, they had this one little chart that I posted up there, the 1 positive, 2 positive, 3 positives. And I found it to be a very useful way on giving people criticism. So 1 positive, when I was teaching kids, and I would give them 1 positive, they said to expect kind of a negative reaction. If I gave 2 positives, they said to expect a neutral reaction. So actually, another way of a recommendation of getting criticism is using the sandwich technique, where you give 1 positive, the criticism, and then you give another positive. Bookending positives doesn't usually work because people focus on the negative. I mean, I do too. I mean, we all do. So they suggested doing 3 positives. So 3 positives would encourage a more motivated reaction. And the last thing that you can do is using the could you please or would you please to present the criticism. Okay? So this is a really good way to present criticism, and you don't have to explain why you're giving the criticism afterwards, because then you're kind of justifying why they should follow what you're saying. But instead, what you should just do is like make it really easy. Are they able to do the thing that you're asking them to do? And also don't put it into a negative. Like, could you not do the thing that you're doing? Instead of just saying, could you do this instead, is a better answer. All right, so here is my example. Okay, so let's say someone's speaking way too much in a meeting, okay? Not the best thing, but you can always think, okay, so then you just have to brainstorm why. Why are they doing this, okay? Well, you can think they want to share their opinion. They want to keep the discussion going, and they want to encourage others to speak more. But you can say your criticism like that, and then you could say, oh, could you ask questions to others, please? And it kind of is, see, the criticism is not supposed to be like, you are talking too much in a meeting, don't do that. It's just kind of inviting them to try out something else, rather than just being stuck, like, stuck being denied of something that they want to do, something that they may not notice, okay? So it's better to ask them a question to see if they notice it. Okay, so next thing is also part of criticism. So when you get into an argument, so the next step is how to persuade people. So anytime you have an idea in a meeting or anything that you might have like a little bit of a conflict with someone, step 1, focus on listening. Listening is tough, especially if you completely disagree with the person. But a lot of people have opinions that they don't know where they come from. So they don't even know why they have those opinions. So step 1, let people explain their reasons first. You can just have them explain things and keep on asking them open questions. And another thing is if you listen to their reasons and you repeat them back to them, you can help them to clarify, or they might say like, oh, I didn't mean it for it to sound that way. But the main important thing is you can ask them questions to explain their opinions or explanations. Okay, but you have to be careful with some of the language that you use when asking people a question. Like, I don't recommend what-if questions. I don't recommend saying, like, really? Really is not a question, okay? Or, do you think so? That's not a good question, okay? Asking them to clarify is just about making sure that, like, they have that one opinion that you disagree with. Ask them to explain more, because maybe they don't know. Maybe it's from their own experience, or maybe their time working in that company. They can make things clear for you and make things clear for themselves. So always, if you're ever going to first focus on persuading people, asking questions and just listening. That's I found to be the most useful technique. And then, if you're wanting to persuade people, I give 2 big things. First, avoid giving your opinion about the other person's choice. So don't tell them that they are wrong, because the goal is that they need to persuade themselves. True persuasion is not you telling them that they're wrong. It's them just slowly discovering, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, maybe I haven't thought of it from that angle before. And you don't want to show your emotions in an argument, okay? You want them to, I'll go a little bit more on critical thinking later, but you don't want to show your emotions, because your emotion, sometimes when you show your emotions in an argument, people will start attacking you for your emotions and not for your argument. Okay, so it's better to have them focus on their argument, and you focus on your argument, and don't judge them. Okay, I don't judge people. I'm not my mother. Okay, but here's how to persuade people. So you have to be very careful when explaining your opinion, because any information that you give them, they can use against you. So that's why I recommend it's better to ask questions constantly than give people too many things about how you may or may not be right, because I don't know, I can't be 100% I'm right either. So first thing is provide 3 concise reasons, okay? So the 3 concise reasons is try to give as much neutral, kind of factual things rather than feelings. You know, what it said earlier is focus much more on visual language rather than your feelings. If you give things that the reasons that you think that they would be able to agree with, persuading them will be pretty easy. The second is then listen to them, okay? Allow them to give their opinion about your choice. The more of their opinion that they give about your choice, the better the questions that you can ask them. Because a lot of times when people hear a choice for the first time, they might start calling you names, or like, you're young, you don't know what you're talking about. Just ask them about their opinion, okay? They will be willing to explain a little bit more. They might come from the perspective that they are right, but the thing is, you are trying to get them to persuade themselves. So if you just keep on asking them questions, they might find problems with their own answer, and you'll basically win, or at least start them on the process of, persuading themselves. And then the last one, I don't recommend doing it. I say it as optional. I very rarely use it, but have them explain what they would do in your situation. You should only do this if you are 100%, if you 100% know that you are correct, basically. Like, I've only used this with 2 or 3 people. So I find it just better to ask other people about what they would do in their situation rather than explain or give them the chance to explain what I should do, okay? Because your goal with persuading them is just to kind of help them to understand, and having them explain what they think about your opinion and about their own opinion, and asking questions, they might start seeing problems with their own opinions and change their perspective, okay? So it's a pretty useful technique to get them to start thinking about it, and then maybe later having a follow-up email to discuss something, or asking them to go out to have dinner afterwards, or just little small talk things. That's the easiest way to persuade people, but yeah, don't tell people that they're wrong. Unless you want to tell me that I'm wrong, that's okay too. Okay, so this is what I have for the first part of class. So is that all right if we take a 5-minute break now? And then I'll have to add a little more things with the next thing for an exercise. And yeah, we'll have more exercises in the next time. And I'll see you in 5 minutes. Well, welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed their break. So the next part, I'm going to break into kind of critical thinking. First thing is just kind of specific parts about critical thinking. The one outline that I found that's pretty useful to thinking critically, and we'll have a couple of exercises to get you guys more involved. And then after that, I'll give you an outline of how to solve problems like an engineer would. So how I have an engineering background, and it's a simple outline to solve problems like an engineer. So hopefully these are useful. I mean, they're useful to me, so they'll be useful to you. I hope. Okay, so anytime if you're trying to think about something, critically about something, you start with, what is the question? Starting to think critically, like saying, I have to think critically about what to eat for lunch. But you could just put that in, what should I eat for lunch? So the questions will help you determine what supporting information you need, like what sources of information, how you can use that information. It helps you to think more about, like, why do I need to think critically about that, instead of just saying, oh, I have to think critically about this. Asking a question helps you search for the answers rather than kind of focus on the thing you have to think critically about. So my 3 examples are, like, for lunch, what should I eat for lunch? Saving money. How much money can I save every month? And new shoes. What shoes best suit me? Okay. Okay, so the next step is to research information. So when you research information, you want to determine which sources of information will be most helpful. Like, for instance, if we go back to the shoes thing, like, maybe a person who wears sandals all the time might not be a good source of information to help you choose what shoes are best for you. So let's say if we were researching lunch, okay, what place to go for lunch, okay? Your coworkers, they're a good source because they're in the same area. Blogs, because a lot of good food bloggers try many different things. And Google Maps, because Google Maps gives you a lot of information about what restaurants are available. So researching information, you have to make sure that the sources that you are using are actually useful. Because if they're not, you're just going to waste time. So, the next part is, once you have the sources of information, you want to utilize this information. So by utilizing this information, you want to find ways to use these sources to contemplate your decision. It's not about solution, like finding a solution. It's kind of what plans of action you can use, okay? Because by thinking critically, you're not searching for the answer. You're searching for how you can think through these things, okay? So lunch, okay, so if you think about the lunch example I had earlier, if you think about uses of that information, you can work with your coworkers to make a restaurant list. You can use Google Maps and bloggers to determine a budget for what you can eat, like what foods were within your budget. And you can plan routes using Google Maps. So these aren't solving the question of what should I eat for lunch. They're kind of giving you a better viewpoint on how that information can be best used to figure out what's a good option. All right, so now the 2 last ones. So the last 2 are kind of like making predictions more than it is like finding answers. So you want to think about what might happen is the 4th step. So you want to ponder about what might happen. Okay, so think of like the benefits that you could gain if you did these things. So let's say for lunch, you could have a healthy meal, save money, feel energized for the rest of the day if you have a good lunch. But we all make mistakes. So it's important to think of what are the possible good things that could happen from this. And instead of thinking of like how this would solve problems, think of what good things might happen. But the last one, I call it the devil's advocate. So this is a common term that people use. The devil's advocate is when you're arguing with someone who has the same opinion as you choose to argue from the other side. But this one is, in this case, if you want to think about things critically, you could consider some possible bad events that could occur. Kind of like things that are like your own problems kind of thing, like things that you make mistakes on. So for lunch, like maybe you spend too much money. I did that today. Or you might feel bad about your diet because you maybe ate like too much meat or too much carbs. And what happens a lot of times with people in lunch, they cannot decide. So that's what the devil advocate's all about. So to review these one more time before we start answering them together is, okay, first, what is the question? What is the question? You're just trying to find out more information about this topic, like how you can think critically about it. Research information, just choosing the sources. Like if the sources are good, then the rest of these are gonna be, the information that you're gonna get is gonna be better. Utilize information is thinking of like specific plans of action that you can do, that you can take away from these sources of information. What might happen is thinking of the possible future benefits that could happen from this if you are thinking critically. And the devil's advocate is kind of problems within yourself that could prevent you from like thinking, like actually being critical while thinking about this. Okay, so now the best thing to do about this is to practice. So is this not big enough? Okay, let me see. Should be full screen. Okay. Okay. So I have to write these in. Okay. So okay, so we're gonna first think of a topic to think critically about. Sorry, Chinese again. Hold on a second. All right. So first you have to think of a topic. Okay. So maybe can I see the chat bar again, please? The chat message box. I want to hear from my people. Okay. So what is a topic that people here have to think critically about? It could be any topic. Okay, any topic. So all of you are about to go abroad. So what's a topic? A good topic that you have to think critically about when you go abroad. Oh, okay. Career. Okay. Well, man, great job. Okay. Okay. So, sorry. So I have to comp. Okay. Good job, May. And well, since you answered career. What do you have to? So how do you put that into a question? So May, what would be your question about your career path? Okay. Okay. Or you say what jobs would help? Or you say, okay, what jobs would help me advance my career, or something like that. Oh, yeah, you can unmute and you can just yell at me. It's cool. Okay, so step 3 is sources. Okay, sources of information. Then we have research. Oh, yeah, just research information. Sorry. Okay, so what would be some good? Oh, went to Chinese again. Sorry. I never use Windows. I always use Mac. So anytime problem happens. Okay, so research information. What would be some good sources of information? Seniors, okay. Seniors is a good one. Seniors, you could be like, maybe you can be like, but seniors you can be like or like mentors / colleagues. Not like, I wouldn't say your grandma and grandpa might not be the best. You can say friend. You can say articles. I would agree with. Maybe I would say friends. Maybe I would say maybe friends, but maybe you can do like a recruiter, because recruiters tend to know the industry a little bit more. Friends are basically yes men. They kind of always will agree with you no matter what, because they're friends and they're great. Okay, so utilize information. So this part is like you have to think from these two things. And be careful, James, you're next. I'm coming for you. You're doing the next one. Okay, so utilize information is kind of thinking what kind of plans of actions you can get from wanting to advance your career. Like what you have mentors, articles, recruiters, what kind of information that they will give you that you can utilize. Any ideas? Okay, yeah, make a list of necessary skills. Referrals. Like referrals to new jobs. It could possibly be like, mentors or colleagues. I mean, make those necessary skills. I would say referrals, like referrals to different jobs. Or you say like, or instead of referrals, you can say make a job list. Oh, okay, you can say like make a job list would probably be easier, because referrals to new jobs could be the two. But I mean, let's go mentors, colleagues. How could they help you out? What kind of action would they help you out? Say develop a list of necessary skills. So how would a mentor / colleagues help you out in thinking of new jobs? Okay, maybe I could say like know your strengths and weaknesses. Actually, in the list of useful websites, I included a really good personality test based on virtues that you can take, and it gives you a list of what. It kind of helps you out getting it's like, they upsell you for getting a whole report, but it gives you a lot of list of what skills you have by asking a lot of questions, and I found that to be quite useful, especially when talking to people when they don't know what they should work on. Yeah, I find very useful. Okay, so the next step is to think of ponder. Ponder what might happen. Okay, if you do all these things, what might happen? Just think of the good things. Devil's advocate's all about the bad stuff. Yeah. Find a job with career advancement. Okay. Okay. Understand your skills. And I can't see what I'm typing. Anything else? Anything else that could help you out? Or maybe you can say like have a better career plan. Yeah, and a little hint, since you're new to your career, it's okay to change jobs every 2 years. That's what I've learned. Yeah, if you're younger, switching jobs quite often is pretty good. But let's think of the devil's advocate. So, what are some negative characteristics? I don't want to say like negative characteristics or things that might hold you back, but only personally, not what you think other people will hold you back, because that's luck. There we are. So any things, personal things that might hold you back. Self-doubt, yeah. Self-doubt, yeah. We all have the same problem with self-doubt. Anything else? I mean, I'll admit something. I have lack of motivation. That happens all the time. And anything else? Oh, good. Worry about other people's judgment. Lack of motivation and scared of offending or okay, sorry. Worried about others' judgment. That works. Okay. So maybe let's try another one, but maybe this one. Next one we can try to make something maybe a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but something a little bit simpler than career. Does anyone have another topic that they would like to think critically about? It could be anything. Or like one of my friends thought critically about buying white shoes, but then his girlfriend ended up buying him white shoes. So he was just nervous of them always being dirty. But Yuting, what topic would you want to discuss? Okay. Okay, moving abroad. Good one. All right. Now let's put that into a question. Okay. I mean, I guess you can move that. Okay. Let's say, I would think maybe this one you could be something a little bit more plural, because should I move to another country, it'd be more like a yes/no question. But maybe you can say like, maybe what are some reasons that I should move abroad? Okay, so let's think of good. Oh, sorry. It's not on the same page. Okay, so I can scroll down. Okay. Utilize information. Okay, and don't worry, you'll get these examples after class, so don't need to worry. Utilize information. So what would be, let's go, you think, what would be some good sources of, research information. Sorry, what would be some good sources of information? Or if anyone else has any good sources of information, because you are all going to go abroad for an internship. I haven't heard anything from James for a bit. So James, what would be a good source of information? Yeah, Google. Okay, if you can do like, could you be more specific about what you would ask Google? Like, would be any like source, like, okay, online forums. Forums for people who've moved abroad. Okay, anything else? Any other sources? Yeah, people who live abroad, good job. You can do this when you say friends who live abroad. I don't know if I'm spelling this right. And one more. Facebook communities, yeah, you do Facebook. Facebook groups are, yeah. Okay. Go capitalize this one. Okay, so utilize information. The next part. Okay, so we have to utilize this information. So what are some, so from the information, the sources that you've researched, how would you utilize this information? So Yuting, James, May, anyone? Okay. Ask questions. Or start a thread. Oh, God. Sorry. Start a thread about questions. Okay. Make a list of pros and cons. And cons. Anything else? Hey, Yuting, can you think of anything? How you could utilize this information? Okay, that's a good one. Maybe you can, maybe you can start to like find friends who live in the country that you want to move to. That's how I moved abroad. So, yeah, finding someone who's already there is always useful. Okay, so now let's go ponder about what might happen. Okay, so let's ponder. What would be 3 good things that would happen if you move abroad? So what would be 3 good things if you move abroad? Yeah, make new friends. Good job. Friends. Wow, it's quick. Okay, make more, earn more money, and go. Find a good job or attend a good school. Okay. let's go to the devil's advocate. So let's think of what are some kind of personality traits that you think might hold you back. Okay. So what could possibly be? Okay. Oh yeah. Can I pick up a different language? To be honest, it becomes a lot easier once you go abroad. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Afraid. Step out of comfort zone. Step out of comfort zone. Good. And you, Ting, can you think of anything? It's kind of funny, James, with the second one. Now every time I go back to my home country, yeah, okay, can't have it. Too lazy to make home plan. Need to make a real plan. Yeah, it's actually funny. Now every time I go back to the U.S., I'm actually stepping out of my comfort zone. So you learn pretty quickly, but. All right, so this is basically how you think critically. So I'll go over the steps one more time. Okay. Okay, so anytime you think critically, you can practice this with pretty much anything. Always think the question first, research information. And this one you have to be careful to make sure that you know that the sources of information are useful. If they're not useful, or if you can't, like for instance, when you said talking about friends about the career path, they're your friends, so they might not be the best sources of information. So try to think of people who would be very knowledgeable about the thing that you want to learn about. Utilize information. This is just almost thinking about what habits that you can do that would really help you out in the end to reach that goal. What might happen? Always think of the good things, the more realistic, realistic good things. Devil's advocate, yeah, get to know you. When you're thinking critically, you also have to know about yourself. What might be your shortcomings? What things that you would really need to work towards in order to be able to do this? So this does not, okay, for this exercise, it's not or this way of thinking, it's not about finding a solution. That's not its goal. Its goal is to make you think more about the problem rather than solve the problem. Because solving the problem can be a little bit different, a little bit of a more, not more difficult, but yeah, I would say a little bit more difficult, because that's the next thing we're going to do. So the next thing what we're going to do is, let me get the next one up here. We're going to analyze problems, which I know, another brainstorming thing. Hooray! But this is basically the idea, it's just finding solutions through brainstorming. So this is actually something that I used when I was getting my engineering degree. It's called K&T Potential Problem Analysis. That sounds difficult, but it's surprisingly easy, because there's certain steps to solving a problem. Because you have to think of, there's not a solution, there are multiple solutions, but you have to see when to use them. So you always need to brainstorm different solutions rather than focusing on one solution, or maybe one source of the problem, or things like that. So if you brainstorm more, it's easier to solve these problems. So, step one, state the problem. Okay? So when you state the problem, you want to be as specific as possible. Okay? So a problem I would give is that I'm bad at time management. Sorry, I made a mistake here. Okay, I made a mistake. Okay, I'm bad at being bad at time management. Okay, that'd be an example of a problem. But yeah, anything you don't want to be like problems at work. That's not really a problem. So the more specific you can be, like if you say like a conflict with colleagues, kind of think of like other things that more specific details that you can provide. Because the more specific the problem is, the easier it is to kind of know more about the problem. So that's part 2. Thinking of the consequences of the problem. So this is like kind of like a conditional, like if this problem happens, what other issues will it cause? So if I'm bad at time management, I wrote it wrong again, but I'll correct it later. You want to think of the, I would say, ramifications, okay, if. So, actually, I'll fix that right now. Okay. So this is like if you're bad at time management, what other problems would it cause? You could be late for meetings, missing deadlines, and having problems with clients and coworkers because you're never there on time. Okay? So, the next one, I can finish these quick. Okay. Okay, so then the next part is to think, what are the causes? Okay? So this is more about knowing yourself, that what causes these problems, okay? These problems happen because of something. It can't be specifically the situation around, maybe a reaction to the situation, but you have to know, why does this problem occur? So if the problem is you're bad at time management, okay? You want to think you're bad at time management because maybe you don't keep a schedule, or like I do. I don't really keep a schedule. I work on things at the last minute, and bad at prioritizing tasks. So if you think of more, the causes can be as specific as possible, the better. But the next part is kind of 2 ways how engineers think about problems. First is preventative measures, okay? So these are kind of like long-term habits that make the problem, it kind of thinks of ways that you can avoid the problem entirely. So these require more work but less cost. That's basically what I think of it as. So if you're bad at time management, some preventative measures you can have are making a weekly schedule. Another thing is write a to-do list every day before leaving work. Something I actually mention this to all my students I've had. Most useful thing to get to never feel busy at work is making a to-do list before leaving your work every day. And maybe setting daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly goals. Something that kind of, if you're bad at time management, setting like little goals every week or every day, every month. Kind of quite useful. These are all my opinion. I might be wrong, so. And the next one is different. So the contingency plan is quite a bit different from the preventative measures. Because the contingency plans is just if the problem occurs. If the problem occurs, what can you do? Okay, what can you do that could cost you a little bit, but it would make that problem go away? So the main thing about a contingency plan is it's still going to cause you more problems, but at least it's going to solve that previously bigger problem. So like the just in case kinds of things I thought of is you can hire a secretary, which would be expensive. Stay after work to complete tasks, but I know you want work-life balance, so that wouldn't be the best. And paying for a task management app. Yeah, you get those alerts all the time, and it's going to cost you money. So that's basically the steps involved in analyzing problems like an engineer. I'll review these one more time before we do some more exercises, because I know how much everyone loves exercise. So Step one, always make sure the problem is as specific as possible. The more specific the problem, the easier the problem will be solved. Okay? And also it shouldn't be blaming someone else for a problem. It should be always focus on your own problem. Think of the consequences. Just think of if this problem keeps on going, how bad will the problem make everything else? The causes, this is just why does this problem occur in the first place? You should always know what the source of the problem is rather than the solutions, because the solutions are more like preventing it. So thinking of like what habits help avoid this problem. And your contingency plan is something that's going to cost you in money and other stuff that from not even if you want to even solve the problem in the first place. But I would say don't go for the contingency plan. Do the habits. They're cheaper. Okay, now let's go back to the document and we're going to do more exercises. And then we'll have a break and then we'll go to doing some presentations. Okay. So we'll do 2 of these. So can I have the chat box up again? Sorry, do the chat box. Yeah. Put it over my face. Okay. Okay. No, it's fine. You can cover my face. I'm just joking. Okay. Let's think of a problem here. Okay. Does anyone have any problems that we need to deal with? I've honestly used this problem to help to prevent a couple from divorcing. That's a little too extreme, but you can give me any problem. It could be any problem at all. Oh, bad at making decisions. Good job, Yu-Ting. Okay. Bad at making a decision. Okay. Don't worry, we are all bad at making decisions. Oh. Except with shopping. Okay. Okay, so then you can say consequence. Oh, sorry, change me to. I always forget what the hotkey is in here. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so let's go consequences. Okay, let's think of 3 consequences that will happen if you're bad at making a decision. Any 3 consequences, it could be, yeah, let's leave it up to you. Okay, any consequences. Okay. Okay. Oh, good. Good job. Okay. Okay. Kind of work. Start doing things. Okay. Delay other schedules. Bad making decision. Maybe you. Or regarding your decisions, maybe like you never make a decision. Instead, if you don't make a decision, maybe you hurt others' feelings. Let's say regretting your decisions is always going to be something that everyone does if something bad happens. Hurt others' feelings, maybe. I would say if you regret your decision, but you might be hurting others' feelings as well as your own. Okay, so reasons. So what are some reasons that people here are bad at making a decision? Or making decisions, I'll say making decisions. Any reasons people here are bad at making decisions? Haha, good one. Too many options. Too many options. Worry about if it is right. If the decision is right. Okay, decision is right. On and overthinking it. Okay. All right. So we know why people can be bad at making decisions. So now we have to do the preventative measures. Preventative measures. All right, so for preventative measures, now we have to think of long-term habits. But with this one, remember to be careful to not just say like things that are like habits that are about feelings, like don't feel this way, don't feel that way. With preventative measures, it's kind of thinking about like specific actions that you can take that can prevent you from that problem. So let's focus on each one of the reasons and then think of like what preventative options can prevent you. So if you have too many options, okay, what is something that you can do to, what's a preventative measure that can help you, that can prevent you from thinking about too many options? Okay, pros and cons. Okay, write down the pros and cons of each option. Good job. I always put the N before the O. I think I write no more than anything. Okay, if you worry about the decision, if the decision is right or wrong. I mean, don't ever tell someone to don't worry, because they'll probably still worry. Okay. Okay. Ask for advice is a good one, but maybe you can say like, find a mentor to discuss the decision with, and overthinking it. Anyone overthinking your decision, that decision? Oh yeah, okay. Okay, good job. Set a timeline for when to make a decision. Okay. I would also include something like keeping a journal. If you're ever worried about a decision, I don't know if you've read the book Thinking Fast and Slow, but in the book he said for big decisions should be your first feeling. And for smaller decisions, you should think a lot about smaller decisions. I kind of follow that mindset. It kind of works. Okay, so next one is the contingency plan. Okay, remember for contingency plans, it's things that could cost you money. Basically money or time or kind of your reputation with people. So what do you think? A contingency plan. So things that could basically cost you time or money or kind of some personal loss, but you'll make the decision. be anything. You can go, let me see, if you have too many options, pick an option randomly. Coin toss? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll pick kind of the same thing, pick an option randomly. Okay, if you worry about if a decision is right or wrong, what could be a good contingency plan? If you worry about a decision being right or wrong, yeah, a contingency plan tends to be a little bit more difficult than the preventative measures because you have to think of something that's a cost, like, like time, money, or like energy. So maybe I would say if worry about if a decision is right or wrong. Yeah, good one. Yeah, pay for a consultant. Someone else to decide. Good one. And overthinking it. Maybe say see a therapist? I don't know. I don't know. Or if you think of anything else, we'll try another one. Let's try another problem. So if you want to do something simple or something more complicated, whatever helps any of you out. So what's another problem that anyone here is working through? I'll allow James or May to decide. Since Yuting had the last one. Ooh, good one. Don't exercise enough. I mean, you could be running in place right now. I don't know. So consequences. The consequences of not exercising enough. Well, actually, that's another thing. Exercise is American English. Doing sport is British English. But I think everyone understands what exercise. Play sports is more like basketball, baseball, tennis, things like that. But what are the consequences of not exercising enough? Yeah. Gain weight is a good one. So for anyone going to the US, be ready. Food is a lot. Okay. 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 Be in poor health. And Yuting? Yeah, less energy. Yeah. If you exercise, you'll have enough energy to be annoying. Okay. So let's say the reasons people are not exercising enough. Lazy. Yeah, I know. Lazy. Anyone else? Yeah, I'm not good at it. Okay. Afraid to not. Yeah, okay. Afraid of doing it wrong. And too busy. Oh, yeah. Everyone's excuses. Don't worry, me too. Okay. Preventative measures. Okay, and the preventative measures, remember, these are long-term habits, not kind of like not being lazy. No. So what is a preventative measure that can prevent you from being lazy with exercise? Okay, make a weekly plan. Oh, I said a weekly plan. A weekly plan for exercising. I didn't include one website on the thing of useful websites. Maybe I'll find it and add it to it later. But there's one website that's pretty useful. It's called Darebee, but really good for getting exercise plans, especially all of them you can do at home. I don't go to the gym because that's my dad's name. Okay, make plans with friends to exercise. Okay. I would say for the fitness class, I would actually move that to the contingency plan because that one costs money. So put that contingency plan. Okay, pay for a fitness class. But I mean, this is the time of year you don't have to. If you had a gym, you would be making money because no one would be going. Okay, set a weekly plan for exercises. Exercising, make plans with friends to exercise. Anything else could be a preventative measure that doesn't cost money, doesn't cost time, money, or energy. Can you think of anything else? James? James or Yuting? You can say that okay, maybe you can, I would say it's something that could even work for a commute to work. Run, bike, / walk to work. I do that. I bike, sometimes walk. Yeah, finding things like that. Okay, so contingency planning. You can pay for a fitness class. What else can you do? What else can cost you time or money in your contingency plan? Mayor James, can you think of anything that could cost you time or money? Okay. Purchase exercise equipment. Pay for a gym membership. Okay. You have like a pay for gym membership or trainer. /trainer. Okay, all good ones. Okay, another page. Okay, I'll review this. I'll review the problem-solving things one more time as a review, and then we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, so Remember, the whole goal of this is finding solutions through brainstorming. Remember to make sure the problem is as specific as possible. You guys did a good job in both of those examples. Thinking of the consequences. This is the one thing that might seem the easiest because you think of a problem, it'll get bigger. This is always an easy one to think of. The reasons is always another one. But once you get to the reasons, you're making the problem much bigger than the initial problem, which the bigger the problem is, you know it's more important to solve. Then when you think of how to prevent it, remember that this one is much more like a free version of how to solve the problem. Because remember, problems always take time to solve, okay? Especially the exercise one. I'm the type of friend who gets my friends to exercise, and they get really annoyed with me calling them to hike every day. And then the contingency plan, okay? So contingency plans will always cost you money or time or energy. They are a solution, but preventing the problem from becoming bigger than what it is always a better idea than thinking of the contingency or following through with the contingency plan. Okay, so that about does it for the hour of kind of critical thinking. I hope you found this useful. For the last hour, we're going to focus on presentations, kind of some tips that I have for giving a presentation, as well as a exercise where you kind of what we did earlier, but then kind of grouping ideas to find out how to organize topics for a presentation. And we'll probably start with that exercise first, and then I'll explain things afterwards, how to improve at presentations. Because to be honest, with a lot of things like writing a report or making a presentation, brainstorming and organizing your ideas before starting to do it is a much better way of doing it. So we'll take a 5-minute break now. So I'm back. All right, so next part is about presentations. I was going to go over my slides first, but I think it's actually better if we just brainstorm and organize a potential topic for what the presentation would be about. I'll just give you tips on how to do presentation decks and how to prepare for presentations, but this first thing is just basically an exercise, all right? So basically I organized this into, this kind of column. So the first column is for brainstorming, and then every presentation has 3 main topics. So let's just pretend like we're making a presentation about a specific topic. Okay, so does anyone have an idea of what kind of topic you'd want to give a presentation about? Any topic. Could be any topic, big or small. Maybe let's pick something really simple. Okay, about internships. Okay, so let's say having an internship. Okay, so anytime you are preparing for a presentation, the first thing to do is to find any words connected to the main subject. So the words that are connected to the main subject are, if we go back to the one thing I mentioned earlier about visual words, so you kind of want to group visual words rather than feeling words. So for an internship, let's think of some visual things. You'll have maybe colleagues, or what other words could be connected to having an internship? So we have to think of about 20 words. So any word is correct. Any word about having an internship, just one word. Company, perfect. There's no bad words here, okay? Because it's not about location. Good job. Positions. Okay. Positions. Okay. Anything else? J.D. Rodriguez. Okay, no. Okay, job development. Environment. Keep on going. All good ones so far. Work from home. Home. Skills. Keep on going. The more, the merrier. Okay, language. Communication. Now I can't see again. Okay. Keep on going. I think we have 10 more. Salary. Yeah, we're all doing it for. All right, salary. Okay, work-life balance. Okay. Keep on going. Could be anything about having an internship. Size? Okay. Or you say company size? A little more specific. Need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. Commute. Okay. Good job. Challenges. Value. Okay. Anything else? 3, 4 more. 4. Customers. Okay. Customers. Good job. Opportunities. Perfect. And 2 more. Then we can finish and breathe easily. Visa, okay. And achievements, okay. We'll stop there. This is one thing where I would almost say the more words you can have about the initial idea, the better. Because basically, all these words are kind of, the best way to describe them is like pieces of a puzzle that you need to put together, okay? So that's like the next part, is trying to put the puzzle together. But when you do this, it's always thinking about one piece at a time. So I'll kind of walk through my logic for this, but maybe I can say after each word, you can enter in what word would go with what. So I would always put colleagues in the first column. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3. Our goal is to group the words together, but we're not going to scroll through and just pick a bunch of words and put them into one column and put a bunch of words in another column. It doesn't really work that way. So you kind of have to think of it as, okay, do these words go together? Colleagues and company, do those go together? Maybe not. Maybe I could say company might go to the second one. But then, okay, well, location, would that go with colleagues or company? Which one would it go with? Colleagues or company? Or should it go in the third one? Okay, we can go with location right there. Okay, positions. Would it go with colleagues, company, or would it go in the third column? Remember, we're just trying to group these puzzle pieces together. We're not solving the puzzle quite yet. Just trying to group them together. So I will go with company too. All right, I'll put positions with company. Okay, job development. Will that go with colleagues, company, or should I put it in the third column? The mysterious third column, which we have no idea about yet. Yeah, let's put it in the third one. Yeah. Okay. Environment. Where would environment go? Colleagues, company, or job development? Environment. Okay. We'll put environment with colleagues. Work from home. Colleagues, company, job development. Okay, I would. Work from home. Which one would that go with? Maybe I'd still keep that with, actually I would keep that with colleagues maybe. I'm starting to get an idea. Okay, skills. Let's go to skills. Would skills go with colleagues, company, or job development? Job development. Good job. Skills. Language. Which one? Colleagues, company, job development. So maybe I'll put it with, actually I'll put like language and communication with job development. Language, communication, I'll put that with job development. What about salary? Would I put that with colleagues or company or job development? Company, yeah, we'll go with salaries here. Work-life balance. Would that go with colleagues, company, or job development? I mean, if you feel like it doesn't go with any specific one, just pick the one that first comes to your mind. Okay, company, work-life balance. Okay. Work-life balance. All right. Company size. I'll probably put size here. That's with company already. Commute. Where would commute go? Colleagues, company, or job development? Company? Okay. Commute. And it doesn't matter if one has way more than the rest, it's fine. So let's go with challenges. Challenges. Job, okay. Then we have values. Yeah, I agree with that one. Customers. Yeah, I'll put that in the first one because I kind of have an idea what the first category is going to be. Opportunities. Where would opportunities go? Job, good job. Okay. Visa. Visa and accomplishments. I don't know what. You two choose. Company. Okay. Visa. Do visa. And what's the last one? Got achievements. Okay. Achievements. Okay. So now that we have all these words organized, The next step is to kind of think of, if we're doing a presentation, we're going to focus on 3 main areas, okay? So column 1 is one area, column 2 is another area, and column 3 is another area of discussion, okay? So once we have these organized, you can kind of see what words go together, okay? I'll show you the first one, and we'll try to pick out the more complicated one to get a better idea of it a little bit later. Okay, so maybe if I see colleagues, environment, work from home, customers, maybe I would say environment up here, because having an internship helps get used to your work environment. So you say work from home, and maybe we'll go to the second one and kind of find which ones go together, because we have colleagues and customers go together, but then when you go, you can add more examples to that later. So you have like 2 different groups within the, or actually maybe, I'll undo that, sorry. I'll make it easier. I think I'm overthinking this. Instead of that, you can say people. So maybe think of one more type of person that you would work with. Colleagues, customers, and this is different than the Google Drive I usually use. Colleagues, customers, and what is another type of person you'd work with at an internship? Superiors, okay. We're going to say upper or management. Good job. Okay, let's see in the second one. I know there's a lot in the second one, but the main thing is to find out what words go together. So if there's like 2 or 3 words that just, like you think, oh, this is a group, okay? Like the first one, we had colleagues and customers, those are 2 types of people, but that didn't, the other words, we could have a use for them later, but then the second one, what do you think would be the main idea of the second column? Or just find, or you can do that, or you just find 2 words that go together. We have company, location, positions, salary, work-life balance, size, commute, values, visa, achievements. Any ideas what we should call the second column? Yeah, company. Yeah, good job, May. But then we have to pick 3 words that work in that. 3 words that are most connected to company here. Maybe I'd say, I'll cross out company for sure. Maybe I'll keep positions. Maybe company, like work in different locations, that could work. Positions, that kind of works. Any other of these words work? What is the last word? We say location, size, values. Okay, I'll actually agree with that. Location, size, values. Because positions you can kind of can be covered in the first one. Okay, and values. Okay. Try to delete these as fast as possible. Okay, and let's go to the third column. We have to find the main idea of the third column. Okay, what's the main idea of the third column? Where can you think of any words that go together? Requirements, job development, skills, close, language, communication, challenges, opportunities. Maybe we should just go for job development. Job development? Or anyone else have any other ideas? Or maybe skills. focus on skills that you can learn from an internship. 'Cause that's more general. So on the top, it's always the more general idea, and then what skills. So you learn job development skills. I would say language I would put with communication. Any other skills you would gain from an internship? I don't think challenges or opportunity skills are kind of that. So you have job development skills, communication skills, and any other skills you'll learn from an internship? Patience. Or maybe you can just do soft skills. Yeah, I don't have patience. Okay, but I want to finish this part. If you have, does this make sense to everyone? How to brainstorm and organize? And then, so then the last part is to organize which order would be the best way to do a presentation about your internship. Maybe I would say first, maybe you would highlight what the company is. Second, maybe the people that you worked with. Oh, second, sorry. Meant to write number 2. And skills would be your third thing. So I would always put that at the end, because that's something you can kind of explain more about how you had an internship. I mean, you can basically use this outline if you ever have to do a presentation about your internship. So we're kind of cheating, so. But next, okay, so this is always the first step I would say in a presentation. It's not about your PowerPoint deck, okay? Making a PowerPoint is not the most important part, because you should never, I'm going to say a lot of complaints that I have about people who do PowerPoint decks. I make the same mistake. Everyone does. But the main goal is to kind of organize your argument first. Then the second step after organizing your argument is to focus on how you would organize that in a presentation deck. So I will open up my next presentation deck. Okay, I don't know how to, I think I can delete this. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so making a presentation deck, it's about collecting information and developing a PowerPoint. So my advice will be quite a bit different from how most people do a presentation deck. Here's my tips, because when I teach presentations, the first one is the one thing that always irritates me. You can use as many slides as you want. You don't need to keep to a specific number of slides. Like, you can go through a slide can just take you a second, or a slide could take you like 10 minutes, but you never know until you get to that slide. So if you use as many slides as you want, as long as you get used to when that slide is going to be used in your presentation deck, that's fine. But I would say spend 20% of your time making your PowerPoint slides. Listen, it's a presentation. It's not reading off a PowerPoint. So you have to get used to what your pace of the presentation is. I mean, I always think of it like a songwriter. Like a songwriter spends not the whole time writing the song, they spend their time practicing the song. It's kind of the same thing for giving a presentation. You should spend 80% of your time presenting your slides. You have to find out what's wrong with your slides. You have to find out like what problems there are in your argument. The more time you spend practicing presenting, the easier it'll be. And basically most people get into a presentation and just are very nervous. But if you've practiced many times, you know what you sound like, and you have edited your PowerPoint slides many times, you're not going to be afraid of making mistakes. So I would say, yeah, use as many slides as you want, 20% of your time is making PowerPoint slides, but 80% of your time practicing presenting your slides. Okay, next is use pictures. I think pictures are basically the best way of communicating an idea. If you have a picture of something, like for instance, here's a picture that I think shows upset, okay? Here's a picture that shows hungry. Here's a picture that shows efficient. The picture is better than just having the word or trying to write a full sentence. A picture will cover basically the majority of what you want to say. And people will connect the picture to your argument. The sentence will be something that they read about and they'll want to review it later. But yeah, that's not the best idea for showing people what you want them to know. The speaking part should be something that's not on the pictures, but you should have the basic idea of it. So that's why I say using pictures is a good way to remind people of the things that you want to talk about. Second is the presentation outline. I broke the presentation outline into a couple of things. So part one is the icebreaker, which I will go over in the next slide. The introduction just introduces the three main points. So if we were making our presentation from earlier, we would just introduce, okay, things learned from the internship are about the company, people, and skills that would be needed for a job. Then once you get past that introduction, what each thing is going to be about, then when we put the numbers in the last one about the three different things, you would discuss the three main points. So you pick each one, and you use pictures or examples to explain these things a little bit about each one, and then you would end it. So in the next two slides, I'm going to go over the icebreaker questions as an introduction, and in the end, how to kind of make sure the end goes smoothly. Okay, so the next one is icebreaker questions. An icebreaker, there's three ways you can do an icebreaker. You can do a story or a quote. I don't think they really work. From teaching people presentations, a lot of times the story or the quote can be too distracting from what the presentation is about. So I suggest just using these three forms of icebreaker questions. Like for instance, this one you see the first one is a would you rather. Like would you rather fight a dog or a cat? That's my example. Not a good example. But if you would say about the internship, would you rather have an internship or keep on studying? Something like that. And that kind of gives you the ability to start talking about it, but in a shortened story. Not like the problem with the story is people go too in depth with the story. If you could, maybe you can say in this one, you could say if you could start your career over, what would be the first step on your path to your career? Or what is the best company that you've ever worked for? What is the company that you most wanted to work for? Something like that. Something that kind of leads into the topic, but it doesn't make it like a long story or a quote where people don't know what it's connected. It just makes people think, because your goal in the presentation is about explaining things to the audience. But a question first makes them think, and then you can give the information that you would like them to know at the end. Okay, then the end is to summarize the three main points. Okay, so you summarize the three main points that you already went over. There's a kind of a rule when it comes to presentations. It's the rule of threes, where you introduce the topic first, you explain the topic the second time, and the third time is summarizing and kind of making sure that people have heard the thing enough where they can kind of a little bit understand it more. I would say summarize in three always repeat the topic 3 times in a presentation makes it a lot easier for your audience because they at least know the outline. They might not know the specific things. My second tip for ending it, any questions I would actually say it's a horrible slide to end on. And the reason it's a horrible slide to end on is that people will, for the most part, would always, like, you can expect your audience to ask you questions, but your goal is not to get them to ask you questions in the presentation because it'll make you seem less knowledgeable. You would like them to follow up and contact you about any concerns they have about the presentation. And the last tip I can give you about ending it is ask an open question to make people think further. If you end with like a what are some or a what other question that, like I told you about earlier, these types of follow-up questions really make people connect your presentation, your PowerPoint slides, to how it affects their own life. A lot of these are kind of things that people in TED Talks already do, but it just takes a little bit of, like, you can follow the same thing if you kind of do as I mentioned earlier, which is, where are these? Following these tips. This is basically what, like, people on TED or will give, like, who practice presentations, like, or even from what I've known is like recording your presentations and things like that helps you kind of control the pacing of the presentation. But you don't want to be stuck making a bunch of PowerPoint slides that you don't know why you made that PowerPoint slide in the first place. Practice makes perfect. Your PowerPoint slides are just an extra thing. They're an extra thing. They're not the main thing. Okay, does anyone have any questions about making a PowerPoint deck? I also, in the extra websites, I included a PowerPoint deck as an example of someone who teaches how to give PowerPoints for a living. She made a really good PowerPoint deck that kind of emphasizes the picture things. But does anyone have any other questions about PowerPoints? Or anything like, let's see here, like the presentation outline. Oh, okay, yeah, good. No one likes to make PowerPoints either. I don't like to make PowerPoints, no, but they're useful. Okay, but remember, practice makes perfect. Okay, and let's go to the next part, the last part. So, okay, the last part I want to go over is just about presenting. Okay? So presenting is practicing and preparing for a presentation. So everyone on the day of a presentation is going to be nervous. Just know that you're 100% going to be nervous. But if you practice more and you prepare to make things in a place that makes you feel comfortable, you're not going to make a mistake. Or you're going to at least be doing better than you would if you never practiced or never prepared any things that helped you be calm. Here's my presentation tips. Step 1, speak slowly to emphasize the key points. So the key points would be the main ones. It wouldn't be like your examples. The things that you're going to repeat a couple of times, explaining those things a few times will help the audience remember the key points. You don't want to be stuck on random stuff that happens that you want to explain more. I wouldn't do that, even though I did that a little bit today. But I'm not used to, I don't give as many PowerPoints as I used to. But the second is to record and listen. the more times you can record and listen to yourself, the easier it will be for you to know how to emphasize those key points. So knowing those key points and knowing how to emphasize them, the only way you can really do that is by making yourself an audience member. So if you are an audience member, if you think of yourself as an audience member, you'll think of how you hear yourself rather than what you want the audience to know. Because if someone misunderstands you, it's not their fault, it's your fault. So the next thing is dress the part. So if you know what your audience is going to look like or what kind of clothes they're going to wear, you should try to dress similar to them. Like that was my thing today. I mean, that's why I wore this shirt and pants. But dressing the part, you want to look like your audience members so they have a connection with them. Or kind of dress for the occasion. Because it's a thing about the main goal of it is it's about showing authority that you know something about this topic. But if I would come here with a hoodie just with my head down, you wouldn't really respect me. But yeah. But the last thing is to gather the necessary items. I mean, if having a handkerchief makes you feel comfortable, you can grab that and wipe your face. That's good. Having a remote ready, also important. Having 6 bottles of water ready, also important. But if you know the necessary items that you want and knowing how to use them, the better. So, next thing is preparation. Okay, so for preparation is memorize what you want to emphasize. This thing you can kind of think of it almost like writing a joke. The things that you really want to emphasize, you can memorize. But that doesn't mean memorizing the whole, every word that you want to say. If you do that, you're going to be stuck when you make a mistake. Maybe you might be a problem with your PowerPoint, or someone might interrupt you when you're pacing of it. You don't want that to impact the rest of your PowerPoint. So the next thing is to find many ways to say the same things. This is where examples really pay off. The more examples you can think of, the more creative you get with examples, the more things that people can see you thinking of an example to explain it to them, the easier it will be for them to understand that you're really thinking of many ways to say the same thing, and that you're making up many examples to help them understand it. And the last thing is to restate the main point after you give the examples. So that's basically the structure. Anytime if you're giving an example, show them how it connects to the main point, and then restate that main example again. Next thing with preparation, make sure to listen to the recordings. I'm going to tell you that everyone hates the sound of their own voice. Everyone. It takes a while to get used to the sound of your own voice. I'm actually saying this as a person who used to record music. First time I heard myself singing, I never wanted to do it again. But if you get comfortable with listening to recordings, it's the best way to build confidence when you're giving a PowerPoint. You also helps you to learn what to emphasize. It is the number one way to get past the point of just being nervous to being confident. And yeah, listen to recordings should be a thing that you should do more than going over your presentation slides or your PowerPoint slides. Second is do not read off the outline. You know what should be on the presentation deck, but you don't need to specifically read that and have that as being all your information. If you have so much information on your PowerPoint deck, that isn't going to help people. You just want to emphasize the things that you want them to remember on your PowerPoint deck. And also use pictures as cues, just as cues of things that you want to say. A picture can help you remember things of like, oh, I was going to talk about this example, or I was going to mention this topic. Using pictures really helps out. Especially if we go back to the internship example, if you have pictures of your colleagues, that's more useful to bring up stories or things that you worked on. Okay, so let's go to the final part, before a presentation. So know who your audience will be is the most important part. If you know, like, okay, so I'm giving a presentation to like 50, 30-year-olds or something like that, okay, about a specific topic. You want to know what kind of clothes they might be wearing, and then what examples that they will understand. It's trying to make your examples as simple as possible. You don't want to try to match their level if you don't know about it. It's the same thing I mentioned earlier about small talk. You don't want to choose an example that you are not interested in. I wouldn't do that. I would just choose examples that your audience would also be able to understand. And then the last one, before the presentation, gather your essentials. Just anything that helps you remain calm. I mean, it can even be like a little doll or something, or I don't know, even a cigarette before. I don't know. Like, just as long as you're calm going into it, then you'll do fine. Everyone gets nervous before a presentation. It's just that you don't want to go to this place where you go to your safety thing and you just start reading off an outline, no eye contact, no hand gestures, just being nervous. It's all about practicing, knowing what you sound like as an audience member, and then going up there and basically just having a good time. If you have a good time, people will like your presentation. That's basically the rule that I have, and it works for me. So let's review my presentation tips one last time, and then I'll give some time for you guys to ask me questions if there's anything I could help you out with. We'll go over that next, and I'll try my best. But so presentation tips, remember, speak slowly to emphasize the key points. Just know your key points beforehand. Just make sure that you know that you're kind of being a storyteller, so you can emphasize those things. Record and listen as much as you can. If you record and listen to yourself like 3 times, your presentation it gets exponentially better after a while. Or I'd say more logarithmic. No, exponentially kind of. Yeah. Dress the part. Just basically know your audience and know what they're gonna look like, and make sure you have the necessary items for yourself, or whatever makes you feel comfortable. You should tell people about it beforehand, and then you'll go up there and you'll do fine. All right. So does anyone have any questions that I can help them out with? I can write the questions down here and my answers as well. But do you have any, what are some, or what other questions, any questions? I can give you tips on whatever. Ooh, 1 question, yay. Okay. Ready? You can ask many questions too. I mean, I know you're, okay, how to write a business email that sound informal but not too casual? I think it's better to, I mean, I'm saying this specifically from like how US people send like customer service emails. It's, well, you don't want it to be too casual. Could be when you add too much in the introduction. So maybe I'll go back to the emails one again. I'll open up that slide again. Okay, let me see here. Let me open up the thing about emails. So I rushed that one a little bit too much. Okay. Okay, so basically in the greeting, just make sure it's like really short. It's just kind of like, hey, how are you today? Kind of like the same thing as what you do with a standard greeting with people. But you don't want to skip this. I would say it's better to give a greeting than just entering into the email, or the body of the email. Because the body of the email should be much more of your concerns and things, but this one you don't want to, this is the one where you can be very direct with people, what you want from them. But it's basically, if you just say like a hello, how are things, it avoids that, like when I teach emails, some emails come across as combative, like you want something from this person right away, but you can kind of include that thing that you want from them right in the title. But when they click on the email, it shouldn't show like, do this, or like telling them to do something. You should just be like, hey, hello, how's your day going? Those two sentences are fine. I wouldn't do anything more than that, because basically all emails are like, I would treat them like customer service emails. Hello, just being really formal, answering people's questions, telling them what you want, what you're concerned about. You'll get a really nice response, but you don't want to have like a combative response from people. Anytime if you want to address something very negative, always do a phone call. Email is just concern, questions. If an email should very rarely lead to a phone conversation unless it's a bigger issue. Does that make sense? So just focusing on greeting and a goodbye. It's kind of this way to be welcoming for them to reply. But I mean, from my experience, I used to work with someone who's all their emails would be an argument, and then I would just go and talk to them in person. And they'd be like, I didn't need you to read the email like that. And I'm like, well, you have to say the hello and goodbye to make sure that you know what the person is feeling at that time of sending the email. Does that make sense? Ooh, the food name. Okay, how do you understand the food name? I'll actually give you a little tip about food. I think food is like not as, I mean, I'll just do this from English. I would just give you a tip about how to describe food. Basically, I'd focus on describing food. And I'll give you my 3 tips for describing food. I always test people on this. It's kind of a good way of what I mentioned to you earlier, avoiding instead of talking about feeling of something being delicious, because your idea of delicious is different from my idea of delicious. It's better to say like, oh, this mainly works in English. You talk to, whenever you're describing a food, you first start with the protein in the food. So you could be like beef, pork, chicken, fish, seafood, anything like that. Always put that first, even if you don't know the name. Even if you don't know the name, the second thing you should also include is the vegetable. Like the vegetables are in it. Vegetables could be, carrots, leafy greens. If you're trying to describe Kongqing Cai, Tangqing Cai, Diguaye, you just call it leafy greens. I would just give you that word. That one's a really easy one to describe complicated dishes that foreigners might not have heard of. And the third one is the carbohydrates, or the carbs. So the last tip I'll give for you is try to describe say how each thing is cooked. So when you say what each thing is cooked, okay. So when you say how each thing is cooked, it makes it easier for people to get a visual thing of it. If you don't know the name, you don't have to say the name of the food, okay? So, like, how would I describe? The one thing I usually have people describe is like lu rou fan, or like a biendang. So most people would just say, like, when I ask students, I'm like, oh, what did you have for lunch? And they said, oh, I had rice. And my first response as a foreigner would be like, do you have no money? Why are you just eating white rice? And then they're like, no. I had chicken. Like, was it boiled chicken? Fried chicken? Is there any sauce on it? Okay. Some salty, spicy sauce. Vegetables, you can just say like radish. If you don't know, just say some various kinds of vegetables, and then you finish with, then you say rice. So, basically how you can describe any food. You don't have to understand the food name. You just need to know how to describe it. Basically, food names are always weird. I would always say that. Like, even reading my mom's recipe books, they always just have like really weird names for the food, but then if you describe the protein, vegetable, carb, you're good. Any other questions? Emails. Typically, how long should I wait before sending a follow-up if I'm expecting a reply? Okay, you send an email 24, okay, I would say 1 business day, but during a business day. I would say, well, it depends on how urgent it is. Like if there's a deadline in the email, some people just forget to reply because it might be like weeks before the thing is due. I have that problem too. But if it's something urgent and it's on a timeline, I would give about 12 hours or like a business day, 2 or 3 business days usually. There's a meme that I saw where someone sent an email at 5:30 on Friday and then emailed the person at 8:15 on Monday about the email they sent at 5:30 on Friday. So that person wasn't at work from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. Monday, so the person only gave them 45 minutes to reply to the email. So basically think of it as like 2 or 3 business days, but if it's something very, very urgent, I would expect like 1 whole business day. Like if you email someone in the morning, they should respond at night, at least 8 hours or so. But if you email before you leave work, give it like a day. 8 hours, I would say, is maybe the good rule of thumb. Any other questions? Challenge me, come on. Give me a good one. Ooh, and I'd also say with the small talk thing, don't be afraid of doing that with the upper management. Upper management likes that stuff. Oh, where, when? When you meet someone for the first time, if you meet them at the water cooler or around the water or in the kitchen, I mean, I wouldn't do it in the bathroom unless you're washing your hands, but just try, just say, hey, how was your weekend? What are some things you do on the weekend? Things like that. The ones I gave you is much more for like networking events, but you can do small talk. Basically, yeah, any time when people aren't like at their desk doing work. So like on a bathroom break, drinking water, going to lunch. I do it in the elevator. Yeah, it's okay in the elevator. Don't have upper management and do an elevator pitch every time. Don't do that. Just, you can have small talk in the elevator, but make it quick. Like, hey, like I usually ask my colleagues, what are you doing after work? And that, oh, it's interesting enough. Yeah, small talk should take 2 minutes if it's in like an elevator. If it's at a networking event, plan for like 5 minutes. But you'll get better at the more questions that you ask, but just don't avoid the weather. Definitely avoid the weather. Ooh, okay. So instead of focusing on accents, listen to podcasts. Listen to podcasts of people from the country that you're moving to talking in English. So a lot of it interview questions or like YouTube channels. That's the best way to get used to accents. But just because you can't, like people will listen for different ways how people pronounce things, but many people don't recognize that they have an accent. So if you just listen to podcasts of the place where you're going to move to and just listen to how people communicate ideas in that area, makes it so much easier to get used to accents. There's not like a class you can take about accents. It's just being in an environment. Good question. And one last question. Okay, anything else? I quickly sum up. As I sit here and finish all the water that they left me. Oh yeah, and also don't be worried about accents. Once you move to the place, and if you spend your time with locals, you'll be fine. It's just being willing to try to talk to locals is the problem. If you're willing to talk to them, they'll talk to you. Okay, any other final questions? Any other questions from people in the room? You're just going to leave me here, just waiting? All right, okay, I'll just summarize up. The basic idea of like communication is just honesty. Just not being, like seeing it's just a person as another person. Not doing this thing of like, oh, they're at a higher position. Just talk to people like they're people. Find something in common with them. Don't be afraid that they're just going to judge you right away. I don't judge people. I'm not my mother. You know, like people are just too busy. They're working on other things. Just try to find something in common with people and think about how you would want them to communicate with you and you communicate with them in the same way. Yeah, so it's always just thinking about your audience and think of yourself as you're sending a message to yourself or making a presentation for yourself or the questions that you want to ask yourself. That's basically it. And then when you give an answer, just be honest. But don't be honest about your feelings because everyone's nervous. No one knows what they're doing. Just say what you like. Another thing I would suggest researching is nonviolent communication. I'll write that down here. If you want to search for an interesting way of how I was told I had to study this for one marketing job I had. Nonviolent communication is a really simple thing. There's a lot of articles about it. There's books about it. But it's a simple way of communicating with people if you want to be very direct. And it kind of covers all the problem or mistakes that people make when communicating. Because, yeah, a lot of times the two things of nonviolent communication, I even taught it to my 4-year-old nephew. You tell people how you are feeling in a short sentence, and then what do you want? Works works so well. Okay, that's all I have to say. It works so well. But if that's it, thanks for having class with me and listening to me. It was so nice hearing you talk. I think I'm saying that to me. But yeah, good luck on your internships. Okay? You'll do great. Just, yeah. Yeah. And that's it, I guess.